Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Good evening, everyone. I welcome you all on behalf of ACFE Oman chapter in our today's joint session with all Middle East chapters. Today's webinar topic is conducting fraud investigation remotely. And our today's distinguished speaker, Mr. Hossam El Shaffei. We have joined by Mr. Haytham, President ACFE Oman chapter, Sayyid Ali Ibrahim, Dr. Irwan Sari, myself Hassan Ahmed, and our speaker Hossam El Shaffei. So without any further ado, I will request Mr. Haytham for formal welcome address. Over to you, Mr. Haytham.
Thank you so much, Hassan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to the first joint ACFE Middle East webinar. I'm delighted to see so many of you joining us today for the important session where we unite to advance our collective efforts to fight against fraud. A special warm welcome to our chapter leaders from the region, starting with United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Egypt, Qatar, Jordan, Lebanon, and Kuwait. Your dedication and leadership in the anti-fraud community inspire us all. And it's an honor to have you, and honor and privilege to have you all with us. This is our second webinar for ACFE Oman in 2025. And I must say, this is our first joint session with ACFE Middle East chapters. As a ACFE Oman president, I would like to say that it is exciting to see our collaboration grow, and there are some more wonderful initiatives ahead that will strengthen our collective impact. Today's session will focus around a very important topic, I must say, conducting investigations remotely. As we believe that the world becomes more digital, adapting to remote investigation has never been so more important. We are here to learn and evolve together. Now, let me hand over to our Director of Training, Research and Development, who will be introducing our esteemed speaker of today, who is the mastermind, I must say, of this joint session. Thank you once again here, and I wish you enjoy the session. Over to you, Dr. Aaron.
Thank you, Haytham. Hossam El Shaffei, our speaker for today, is a global thought leader and a trusted consulting advisor to public, private, and multinational organizations on fraud prevention and deterrence. He also is active in agile internal audit, compliance, enterprise risk management, governance, internal controls, shared services delivery strategies and process transformation, anti-financial crimes, anti-money laundering, and terrorist finance. I promise to keep this short, so I will not go further, but I can vouch that Hossam has had an illustrious career, and I've had the opportunity to meet him in person twice or thrice, I think. His commitment to internal audit and anti-fraud arena will be evident through his talk today, which he will enlighten us with soon. Thank you very much, Hossam, for accepting our invitation, and over to you.
Well, thank you so much, ACFE Oman chapter, for inviting me. All the respect to the leaders of the chapter, and the Middle East chapters. Again, as the president mentioned, Mr. Haytham, that this is the first collective ACFE Middle East chapters event. So I'm so proud to be the first speaker for this collective effort. More to come. Other chapters will be inviting um, for events. I would like to take the opportunity to thank Oman chapter for taking the lead and hosting the first collective event. And I hope you enjoy the presentation of today. We're here to learn from each other. I would like to have interactive session. Again, because I don't claim that I know everything. I come to learn from you as well. You're the expert in your industries. Therefore, we're here to share knowledge among ourselves. And I thank Oman chapter for providing such important opportunity. All right. So without any further delays, I would like to repeat that we will speak today about how do you conduct fraud investigation remotely. I don't know if any of you have done that before. Maybe I'll take a quick survey. Do audience have access to chat box, please?
Yes, in question tab, yes, they have access.
Yes, excellent. So maybe in the chat box, if you can give me a quick fraud investigation before. Say aye, say nay. Are we getting any answers?
I'm not sure they probably in the chat.
Mustafa Abid Kamle, he say hi.
Okay.
Some people say no, some people test, nay.
Okay, good.
There have 5-6 feedbacks we came in the question tab.
Okay, excellent. So some already have done that, and I would like to, as we go along, they can share their experience or confirm what we're saying in fraud investigation. All right. So you must agree with me that digitalization is being on a skyrocket since the pandemic, since March and April 2022. Before that date, if you would ask your organization that you would like to work from home today, they say, well, sorry, sir, sorry, ma'am, we hired you to come to work, and we want to see you in the office. No work remotely, no work from home, all right? But after that date, March and April 2020, those that were not able to adjust to work remotely switched their services to direct consumer transactions, were left behind. Many companies, as you remember, closed down during the pandemic. This is not my picture, by the way. I look much better than this. So don't laugh at this, or don't think about that I'm taking my own photo here. But what I'm trying to say is, as a fraud examiners, we need to start thinking as well, because we used to be very traditional in doing our business, our investigations, by saying we need to go and interview that person face to face, we need to go and check the site, we need to do this and we need to do that. Now that mindset need to change to meet the business requirements, especially if you work in a business that has offices or branches, in other locations in other countries, or maybe other cities within the same country. You have to prioritize your fraud investigation process, all right, based on the need, the requirements, the sophistication, the complexity of the assignment itself. Bruce Doris, former president and CEO of the ACFE, said in February 21, we are remote, but we must connect. That's very important. That's very challenging statement. Yes, sir.
Sorry for the interruption. I see the comment that we see the presentation slides, not the full screen of the actual slide. So can you make the presentation mode? The question from the audience.
I do have it. They see it, but they don't see the presentation, or what? I'm not sure.
They see all the slides, not in the presentation mode. Someone is suggesting please press the Shift plus F5.
I have it now. How does it?
No, not in the presentation mode. It's the same like a PowerPoint.
Okay, let me see from this. Okay. A computer the sharing. Well, you're lucky guys that you see it all. I see it only one. I see one by one. So your guys are luckier. Let me see. I'm trying. Okay, I got you. I got. Well, now it's change me this. I'm sorry, I'm not very familiar with the GoWebinar, and I'm trying. Maybe later. This. Well, sharing my screen is not active.
Sir, we can see your screen.
You can see my screen. Wait a minute. Okay. All right, I'll close this. It says show my screen. Okay, let's see how this will work now. How about now?
Yes, it's fine now.
Now it's fine?
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah.
All right. Where were we? We are remote, but we must connect. Yeah. What did Bruce said that even when you work remotely, you need to stay connected to each other, to connect with your employees, to connect with different departments with the organization, because it's very important that to stay connected with each other during crisis time, or if you're working remotely. Because many companies now and many organizations since the pandemic have adopted the remote working style. All right, and we'll talk about the challenges for the remote working style. Bruce also said, just as fraudsters are looking for new ways to steal during a pandemic or during a crisis, we must find a novel method to catch them, even if we must do it remotely. All right, so we have to improve our techniques. We have to adapt new skills. We have to adapt new techniques in order to be able to meet those challenges that from working remotely. The president also, or the former president also added that during a survey that was made by the ACFE, 79% of those completed the survey have already observed a significant increase in fraud. People think that when you use digitalization, fraud decrease. In reality, it didn't. It actually increased, but different types of fraud. We went into cyber fraud, we went into stealing your identity fraud, and so on and so forth. 90% expected for fraud to increase afterwards, after the pandemic time. Did it increase? Yes, it did. Yes, it did. People expected, professionals expected it to increase, and it did increase, as a matter of fact, because we switched, especially in the Middle East. In the Middle East, I remember just before the pandemic, I didn't really use my credit card much. I didn't use my debit card much, because I always counted on having cash in my pocket. And I found it, me personally, I found it easier to keep track of my finances or my cash or my liquidity when I have it in cash. I know I have $10 in my pocket, so I'm not going to spend more than $10. All right. But during the pandemic, I was forced, like many others, to start using credit cards. And that fraudster said, "Oh, welcome, Habibi. This is the time I was waiting for." All right. And fraudsters became more clever, more smarter, found more ways, all right, to be able to continue to commit fraud through the new ways of doing business. Telehealth in the health industry, everything was remote, everything was delivered, everything was online, and that has opened up more ways to commit fraud. Therefore, the ACFE asked CFEs and members of the ACFE to skill themselves more, to upgrade their skills, to be able, right now, if you're a certified fraud examiner or an investigator, and you're not skilling yourself, you're not going to your ACFE chapter, you know, for trainings and webinars. I do, you know, see that Oman chapter offers a lot and brings a lot of speakers in different directions and different topics and so on and so forth. Why is that? Because we need to skill ourselves better every day to be able to address the challenges and the sophistication is going in such a speed. If we don't keep up with it, what happens? Lose our jobs? Big possibility, right? So you need to stay updated. You need to upgrade your levels of skills in order to do that. So leverage up-to-date technology, brainstorm with IT department, see what other ways that you can use to conduct your investigation. As a matter of fact, one time I was conducting an investigation, and my boss said, "Get ready to go tomorrow to the site to check and examine the documentation." I said, "Let me collect the papers, the evidence first, electronically. Let me take a look at them, narrow down what may be that I need to examine in person." And then instead of going there, some people would not like that because a lot of people, many people look for travel and per diem and so on. All right. And let me narrow down what I would want to look at. So when I go there, I don't stay a month, I stay 5 days, I stay 2 days, you know, and then come back. Cost effectiveness in doing our investigative work is very important. Even basic interviews now rely on so much technology. Guess what? Webinars, what we're doing today, if we didn't have those platforms, education became very close to us and it became very cheap to us. If we didn't have webinars, we didn't have Zooms, and so on and so forth, the number of trainings and events have increased after the period of the pandemic because of those platforms. We became more used to it. We became more comfortable with it. All right. So what we're doing today is one of the things that we learned and we adapted since then. It has its own challenges, right? What will happen if electricity cut right now? I'll say goodbye. You won't see me. We won't continue. So we have to have plan B for continuing. How about if network plays, you know, low or high or whatever, and then the communication is distorted? We need to think of all of this. How can we evaluate evidence online? How can we build the credibility? How can we build trust in that person? How can we gain a lot from interviewing people in person? Because as we say, and as the ACFE taught us, you have to have a full view of the person you're interviewing, because you interpret their movements with the hands, with movements with the legs, looking up, looking down, taking a flee position, and so on. That all together, you need to learn to do it looking at the screen. Therefore, there is a technique. There is a technique to how to sit in front of the screen and how do your interviewee and interviewers should sit in front of the screen in order to have that most of the body view. All right. So we'll come to that as we go. Closely work with legal. One of the things that you need to take into consideration while working remotely or investigating remotely, you need to understand, obviously, the laws, the procedures of other locations, of other countries. One of the things also that I would think about, your policies at work, all right, is built and developed on the basis of you being at work. I'll give you a simple example. Your and I will exaggerate in some of my example with all the due respect to all of you. Policies says, I worked for foreign companies and foreign organizations. So our policy said no drinking alcohol when you are in the office. How about if that same person that is willing to drink in the office is drinking during working hours at home, working remotely? Does your policy cover this? Can you cover it? Can you tell the person you work at home, from home, or from anywhere, but you're not allowed to drink alcohol? All of these need to be taken into consideration, and these are some of the challenges that you need to look at and while conducting a remote investigation. Again, businesses are quickly shifting to digital modes. So before 2020, March and April of 2020, people, companies resisted the work from home, resisted the upgrade from the upgrade of technology. When you go and say, well, you need a better server, you need to hire this, you need to buy more another piece of technology. Technology was the least function in any organization money is spent on. So a lot of organizations were actually shocked and surprised and did not know what to do during the pandemic. I keep the pandemic in mind when I speak because this is exactly when remote working became very popular. Do you agree with me? I hope you do. Therefore, fraud examiners began also to start addressing. Now, people are working from home. You want to, I'm a certified sexual harassment investigator from the United Nations. How about if I get a report, a whistleblowing report on sexual harassment somewhere, and it's remotely. It's not in the office space anymore. How do I handle this as an investigator? You need to think, you need to have a policy. You need to inform employees, training, awareness. You need to do all of this in order to build, which is very important, to build ethical culture of employees of a company, regardless of where the employees are. All right. And then investigation functions are now on a fast track toward fuller transformation by adapting to remote working. Those are willing to transform, they will move way faster than those are not willing to transform. And actually, if you don't transform yourself, your function, and your organization into facing those challenges and being able to adapt to those and address those challenges, you'll be left behind. You'll be left behind. Most of organizations, when they talk about risk management, they either talk about operational risk or financial risk. Not many organizations, unfortunately, talk about fraud risk and include fraud risk clearly in their risk management process. Lots of investigators and lots of huge number of investigators, huge number of auditors are not at the level to audit or investigate cybersecurity, for example, cyber fraud. So you need to learn, you need to equip yourself. I know standards of the internal audit says, you know, you hire someone, and the standards also for fraud investigators says you hire an expert and they work under the investigator. But if I hire a cybersecurity investigator, expert, how do I manage? How do I see their work if I am, as we say in Arabic, abiyad, blank, cleaner than the dish after being washed? All right. So we need to skill ourselves to some extent that we can even manage if outsource or bring an expert to help us. Think ahead. Think ahead. If crisis like the pandemic happened once, it could happen again. It could happen again. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we didn't expect the pandemic. We didn't listen to this. Everyone, every single person around the globe, not only in Oman, not only in Egypt, not only in Jordan, around the globe, stayed home at the same time. The globe became a ghost town. Nobody expected it. There is a power over and above any other power in the globe. So one of the things that we can at least do is to think ahead, be prepared to situations like that. Also, think about how do you do a good job while saving money to become effective and efficient and also helpful to your organization in conducting fraud investigations or even audits, because most probably many of you sitting there or attending today are also auditors or risk managers. All right. So be prepared. Think about what happened after the pandemic, larger scale of remote working, contactless payments increased dramatically. Now it's wallets and mobile wallets and wallets from here and wallets from there, prepaid cards, prepaid telephone cards, prepaid payment cards like credit cards and so on. Cloud use. How many organizations resisted the use of cloud? Stealing data of organization. Before the pandemic, no one could work or perform any business if they're not somehow connected to the cloud. And as I mentioned, online learning also has increased. So moving forward, I would like if anybody has a question to ask as we go. So we have this interaction dynamics in the session. And at the same time, I take a rest, you know. But anyway, fraud risk is very important to be embedded in your risk management, as we said. And one of the things that you need to take into the risk of working remotely, the policies, the risk of not being following or in compliance with the company policies and procedures. And the other thing is that the increase of external and insider fraud because there is no oversight as it is when the people are in the office. All right, nobody is seeing Hossam while he's working from home, and don't know if Hossam is leaking information, company confidential information or not. So these things you need to talk to legal, your regulatories, government or central banks, and so on and so forth. Also check the rules, the laws of other jurisdictions when you're conducting those remote investigations or remote audits as well. Everything I say, it could be taken also for remote audits as well. So, so keep that in mind if you are an auditor. One of the challenges and difficulties in detecting fraud is distinguishing the method that requires immediate investigation. All right, how do I do that? That I know I get informed about misbehavior, even if it's remotely, and how do I act on those and differentiate between the reports, the blowers reports that I get, what needs immediate reaction, and the other can wait. This is also very important to think about, and so you can have parameters to go back, our key indicators you go by, so you can define that. People in different zones, people in different countries, you need to take into consideration. How do you identify the signs of deception while you're not in the same room with the person? This is a skill by itself. Believe it or not, because we do a lot of webinars, we do a lot of e-learning now, we do a lot of investigations remotely since then. Now, for an example, I have built some like when I teach a class, you know, where I know even if I don't see the participants, I stop and I call a name so I can tell the person is still there, awake, not awake. Or I catch somebody going, yeah, I'm here, or yes, I'm here. So I can say, you're smoking, you're eating, you know. You build some skills. Actually, the other thing that we talk about always when you're conducting an investigation, when you're conducting an audit interview, you need to build skills I don't know if you see me or you don't see me, but you need to build good listening skills. You need to build good listening skills. You need to listen carefully to each word and every word that the interviewee is saying to be able to interpret what the person is saying. And that's a skill we didn't depend on so much when we are in the same room. Because I can say, repeat, or I'm staying closer. So no echo, no other interference. Exchanging key documents on the screen is difficult and different from seeing a document first right there. Photoshop plays a major role. The authenticity of the document may not be easy to find on a recording what you say or recording what the interviewee say. Screenshots, all of these things need to be taken into consideration. Using a mobile or a laptop or somebody feeding the person information there are so many machines now and tools that even the interviewee can be fed. Somebody can listen to your questions and the interviewee can feed that person the answers to you. That's why when you go to a CFE exam, people complain about the security check. Check your ear if you have an earpiece, you're listening, or I remember at the time of school when I used to write, Dr. Aram is here, used to write answers on my arm when I go to the exam. No, I don't cheat. All right. So, so all of these things you need to take into consideration, reviewing financial data, scan documents, waiting for the court to reopen during summertime. They take holidays until they come back, and then also the very important piece for fraud examiners is you're able to walk down the corridors in your company, so you can see, you can observe, you can talk to people, you can get a sense of what's going wrong, you get a sense of what's going right, and so on and so forth. You see people change in people's behavior, which is also a red flag for us that we take into consideration. So working remotely, all of these are not there anymore. The other thing, the disconnect with employees could make employees hesitant to come to you because they don't see you every day. There is no trust that they know you, they see you walking down the corridors, they know who Hossam is. So that could make them more comfortable to come and speak to you. But if they don't see you, maybe they would be hesitant to report. They may also worry to answer questions, worry to answer questions that you take them or be fired or to be punished based on this. Things must be documented. Investigation become harder to conduct when it's promptly. You see, having this webinar, we're dealing with 9 countries at least. The 9 chapters come from 9 countries. The timeline for each one of them. If you have a branch in the US, or you have a branch in Europe, or you have a branch in Africa, or whatever, time can play a role in how to get immediately to this investigation in an appropriate time and taken into consideration all the players in the involved in the investigation. Again, as we mentioned, you need to have a remote work policy so to govern the business when you are working remotely. As I mentioned, harassment outside the office is difficult to supervise employees, and I give the example of a no drinking policy that can be easily violated when employees are at home. So the more important thing for an investigator, the more difficult thing for the investigator to prove is to confirm that the person committed a wrongdoing while nobody is seeing it. The person is at home and it's working remotely, so it is difficult because nobody's seen. He or she is not in the office, and so on and so forth. So remote working brings large dependence on other workers. If you have co-workers that have seen the person, or they work together from a cafe or from home, they get together and then they see something wrong. Workplace culture, we talked about, very important, that even if you allow people to work remotely, you need to find a way to supervise them and to make sure that they're working from home as agreed, or not necessarily from home. They are on the job mainly, because you don't tell them you work from home or you work from a cafe or you work from here or there. You need to tell, and that's very difficult for supervisors as well, that to keep the employees on their toes, knowing that they've been watched, even when they are not watched, really watched, physically watched. Yeah, immediate investigation that should take place, so employees know. When you do that, when you immediately investigate a complaint, is you're delivering a message to employees that even when you're not here, we act, we're here. Legal is here, HR is here, investigators are here to act immediately on misbehavior. Again, compliance is very important to reduce the difficulties on the investigation. As I mentioned, that you need to build a remote working policy, or to embed in your current policies is remote working. Otherwise, you won't be able to sanction an employee. Organization would not be able to sanction an employee or to take an action against an employee if it's not supported by rules, policies, regulations. And obviously, these policies and regulations should not violate your country laws and regulations. Labor law should not conflict with that, because at the end of the day, we won a lot of, for example, I take cases, I help people who have been sanctioned by their organizations if they have a good case or there is abuse of authority, because also that's another thing. I work an area where I am certified in. If there was a clear abuse of authority, I was a head of labor union in the United Nations. So So I don't like to see employees being abused by the authority of supervisors that because of fear of experience or a lack of their experience, and then they try to get rid of employees who are good because they're scared of them. So I win a lot of cases only based on the lack of policies and procedures, or policies and procedures conflict with country laws, for an example. The other thing also I use, and a lot of cases have been turned down because of the lack of investigation, proper investigative process. So this is also for you as an investigator, need to make sure, as we say in the CFE material, when you start an investigation, assume that this investigative work that you will finish will end up where? In the court. You assume that your work will end up at court. So who the judge will interview first? You, Mr. Investigator. How did you get to here? Where did you get the evidence? Did you get them using proper methods of collecting evidence? Have you violated any laws? A lot of fraudsters go to the court, and because of the lack or inappropriate investigative methodology, the case gets dismissed. Or the judge says there is no criminality in this case. It's only violation of company policies and procedures. So company, you take an action against the person has no, and they release them. And guess what? They become speakers. We invite the big fraudsters to come and speak and tell their stories. Yeah, so you as an investigator, you need to keep that in mind. Do not violate the company policies. Make sure that the company policies do not conflict with country laws and regulations, all right, or laws, rules and regulations, whatever it is, in order for you to, for your work to add value at the end, for your work to be respected, for you as investigator, people look at you with credibility that you do a good work and you make sure that all is good. Training, nothing better than awareness. Educating people on how to work ethically when you are working remotely. You educate people on that even when you're working remotely, you will be caught if you misbehave. More important, as we said earlier, is building an ethical culture. For me, that's the best thing to do. Because we say, if the boss does it, why not me? Right? So we need to look at our senior management with respect. Therefore, we'll gain respect ourselves. Okay. Again, you have to pay attention here. This is one that you won't be able to see the person's legs, right? So one of the things that we do, if you look at the screen and how this guy is sitting, half of his body is already showing on the screen. Yes? And the investigator if the lady is the investigator, the lady is standing in a way that the person on the other side see most of the body of the investigator. So you have to agree from the beginning that you set the camera a bit away from you so I can see most of your body. And before I ask you to do that, I would say to the other person, wait a minute, let me adjust my camera, all right, so you can see me better. And then what do I say afterwards? Can you also do the same? A lot of people, because they work as investigators, they wear the head of Mr. Colombo. The way they act and behave is not appropriate. All right, I want to ask a question and quickly say in the chat, and Mr. Hassan will help me out. What kind of investigation do we conduct? What do you call it? Obviously, I'm not seeing the chat. So, Mr. Hassan, are you there?
Yes.
Yes. Are you getting any answers?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Audience, please, you can you can answer in the question tab. We will see.
Do we still have people attending?
Yeah. You can. Many, mashallah. Mr. Abdul Salam says skills of monitoring and observe are the most important.
Skills of monitoring and observe. Excellent. Yeah, but I want to tell you, I want to ask everybody, what kind of investigation do we conduct? What do we call it? Other than investigation, obviously. Yes? Any answer? Okay.
Not yet.
Okay, if there is no answer, I want
Online
you...
investigation. Mr.
Say
Sultan
again?
said online investigation, forensic review, inspection.
Exactly. All of this is correct. But does any of that give you any authority to treat your interviewee badly? No, no, no. What we do is merely corporate investigation or administrative investigation, which is totally different from criminal investigation conducted by law enforcement. Law enforcement, like police and the like, have authorities. They have a major authority that you don't have. You're just a civilian as much as you're a fraudster. So you actually don't have any authority or any power other than what's listed in your policies and procedures in the company. So you have no authority to lock anybody without the person will. You don't have any authority to say to anybody you're a thief. You don't have any authority to slap anybody. You don't have any authority to kick anybody. You don't have it's the other way around. If you lower your voice, if you do not have this arrogance in you while talking to your interviewee, all right, you may get more information, you may get more collaboration. All right, I ask a lot of people, would you bring water to the person you're interviewing, to the fraudster? And a lot of people say No, at one time I teach police officers to become certified fraud examiners, and I say, I say, bring the motor, tell them when you want to go to the bathroom, let me know, and you can go, you're free to go. And that's why we say we don't lock the room when you're interviewing somebody, because all of this will be taken against you at the end of the case goes to court. All right. So, for example, yeah, police officers tell me we don't waste time. We have a lot of people, so it's a couple of face slaps and a couple of kicks. I get the information, and then next. All right, we don't do that in corporate investigation or administrative investigation. All right, that person you're investigating most probably is your colleague in most of the cases, right? So,
sir, there are some feedback. The policy should be clearly written that what is allowed and what is not allowed. Every investigation should follow the principles of do not harm.
I love all the statements. I love it. Thank you very much. I agree. You're right.
Gathering information from the suspect, you can make them feel guilty.
Say again?
There's two from Ms. Sheikha. Gathering information from the suspects.
Yes.
And the next other one is that you can make them feel guilty.
Exactly. By being kind. Actually, I ask everybody a question that if you are investigating a treasury case and a treasury has taken money from the safe, and when you go to the investigate and you talk to the treasurer say that I was just borrowing the money. Excuse me, borrowing the money, the company money? Who allows you? Well, I received a call that my mother was ill and need to be admitted at the hospital, and the hospital did not admit her until they pay advance money to admit her and operate on her. And my family didn't have the money. So they called me. So the only way, my mother was at the gate of the hospital, need to be admitted, and the money in front of me. So I took it to run to admit my mother, and then hopefully within a couple of days I can bring that money back and put it in the safe. But I was unlucky, and during those 2 days I was audited and the money was missing. And if the person show me really invoices and receipts correct that to confirm the story, and I believe the person, would I say that in my report? Obviously, I'll tell him, why you didn't go to your supervisor? Oh, it will take time and I have to request, and it goes approval and may be approved and may be disapproved. All right. So do you violate, do you know that you violated company rules and regulations? Yes, I did. I do. But it was borrowing. I borrowed the money. I wanted to save my mother. Can I say that in my investigation report? Can anybody answer? Can I say that person borrowed the money to save his mother?
No.
The answer is no, right?
Yes.
Incorrect. The answer is yes. You have to
one more answer.
empathy.
Yes, with empathy.
Exactly. You have to have some empathy. You know what, investigators and auditors? Yes, you that I'm talking to. The decision to discipline somebody is not your decision. Whose decision? It's management decision. How come? It's management decision. We're a fact finders only. We are fact finders. We give management the facts, and management makes the decision. Sometimes management pushes the investigator to make a recommendation to fire or hire someone. Don't take that position. It's not your decision. All what you need to do is the list. We'll come to reporting. All what you need to do is mention the policy that was violated. And then say allegation is substantiated or not substantiated. That's all what you can do. Obviously, those that took the CFE class or recently or before, and you don't make a recommendation, you make a recommendation only if you're an expert in a certain area. Such as you can make a recommendation to strengthen internal controls, or you can make a recommendation to use a different accounting. I don't want to go to accounting because Dr. Aram is here. By using GAAP or using IFRS or valuation of assets or this or that, you can make that recommendation if you are qualified expert in this area. Yeah. Therefore, make sure that witnesses are comfortable to help you. Set them up send them a laptop, send them a computer. Some people you would interview may not have access to internet or may not have access to computers. So send it to them. In the worst case scenario, you may have to have a telephone conversation instead of screen computer interview. But then make sure that you listen carefully. Maybe what you can do also, you can hire someone from that country to be in the same room with that person. All right, I do that a lot. Hire someone in maybe Nigeria to go and be with that person in the same room while I'm talking to that person on the phone. So that person I send knows that nobody else should be in the room, that this person should not look at any papers, that person should not call anybody, should not consult anybody, and so on and so forth. Set the rules up. All right. Assessing credibility, obviously, it's hard. Not in the while you're not in the same room, hard to make a real connection, cannot see their whole body as we talk, cannot live the vibes itself while you're not in the same room. You know, somebody is shaking their legs, they're playing with their hands or fingers, covering their mouths. Obviously, not everybody playing with the fingers or playing with the pen or covering their mouths are lying or trying to lie, but the credibility, the whole thing we take as a cluster, we take as a whole thing together to build an observation opinion on the person and their credibility. All right, 6 factors we need to take into considerations: the demeanor, the internet into consideration, the motive for the person to lie or falsify documentation, omission of information and records. All of these we need to take into consideration while we're conducting interviews remotely. The inconsistency in the person testimony, existent or non-existent.
There's one question from the previous slide. It's saying the impartiality could be implemented in this case.
Absolutely. You need to be impartial. You need to be unbiased. As an investigator, you know what? I also shared this experience with you. One time I was conducting an investigation for stolen computers from a warehouse. And by the time I went to the site, the person that the company suspected that is the person who stole the computers was jailed. They actually called the police, and the police came and took that person. And when I met that person, I didn't like the way the person looked. That's my personal opinion, huh? I didn't like the way the person looked. And I told myself immediately, I should not start with this, that I don't like the way the person looked. The person had some scar, what they call it, cuts in the face, and had an eyebrows higher than the other, and then when I asked the person, "Have you been in fights or something? Why you have this look?" And then the person said, "One time the gas tank for the stove blew up in his house, and he sacrificed his life to save his family, so he was badly burned." And this person did not have any keys to the warehouse. That person was only good at computers and IT and digitalization, and was helping staff in the company to check their computers or to buy new computers. They go to him and ask him. So when the computers disappeared, they thought no one would be interested to do that except that person. So I asked the company immediately to go to the police and ask the release of the person, because we do not need to judge based on personal. Even if I knew a person that is not straight, is not I know a lot of stories about a person. I should not take that into consideration, while I should not do a prejudgment. Maybe I take it into consideration, but no prejudgment, because what we are called fact finders. If I don't have a fact to conclude on my investigation, your feelings, you're unbiased, if you're not disconnecting yourself from the case and only sticking to the facts. So facts only what you can use to conclude on your investigation. So thank you for the intervention and the right thing to say.
Thank you. One more, connections issues like Wi-Fi and technical issues as well is a challenge.
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree, and that's why you have to have plan B. So you can connect to a hotspot from your phone, or you have another modem, or whatever. You need to take it into consideration. As obviously, it seems like some of the people that doing remote investigation already been faced with some of the challenges. Good. Thank you for the intervention. Keep feeding us with your inputs and experiences. Witness attitude towards the actions being done while they're testifying, while they're being interviewed. And the other thing, admission of untruthfulness sometimes is a challenge. Avoid accusatory language when determining credibility. As I said earlier, you don't call somebody a thief, or I put an example here when your interviewee, you ask a question and your interviewee maybe look at the sky or look down or cross their arms. All right, don't say you're lying. Don't say you're not going to say the truth, and instead say, I noticed you crossed your arm, or you looked to the ceiling, or you looked down. Did this question made you uncomfortable? And see how that person would react to your question. And again, I repeat, as I said earlier, your tone, if your tone is calm and your conversation is calm and you're not using accusatory language, you may get more cooperation from your subject better than if you're threatening them or using strong language. Another challenge is keeping the interview confidential. So you need to make sure, if nobody is with the person you're interviewing, you need to make sure that the room is private and nobody is there, and nobody is, no spouse, no kids, no consultant, no TV on, and so on and so forth. How do I do that? Should I go straight and ask the person, like they do in the CFE exam, show me your room? As an investigator, you say, I would like to show you my room. I would like to show you where I sit. And take the computer and go around your room and show under the table, show that nobody's there. In case you have another investigator there, remember that in the CFE exam, they say two investigators are allowed, right? So in case you have another investigator in there, or another consultant in there, or another expert in there, introduce that person. Show that person with your camera and say, I would like to introduce Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so, and her role is 1, 2, 3. Can you please show me your room as well? So start with yourself first, and then ask the person to do the same. Then it will be acceptable because you started with yourself, right? And say, I don't have a camera, and say, I will not take a screenshot without your permission. I will not record without your permission. I want to show you my room that I have nobody. I want to show you my ear that I'm not listening to anybody. Would you do the same, please? What do I get? I get a positive reaction to that in most of the cases, no? And the other thing, again, as you said the rules that no consultation with anybody. So you're not allowed to call anybody, actually. You should not have your phone, or have your phone and camera that I can see. If you have more investigators, you introduce them. As I said, keep documents safe by making no screenshots. Say, I'll show you the document, but you're not allowed to take a screenshot or download the document as I show it, or you take a photo. All right, those documents that I am willing to share with you, I will send to you in another way. Trust and rapport. I'm sure you know that you start any interview with an ice-breaking conversation. Do not speak about religion. Do not speak about political situations. Do not speak about sensitive topics. Talk about something general. to build the trust. What I actually do in actual practice, that obviously before I call someone to an interview, I review their personnel file. I know how many kids, I know how old the kids, and so on and so forth. So I start with saying, I learned that you play tennis, for an example. I play tennis too. I learned that you have a boy that is 12 years old. MashaAllah, what school they go to? You know, my kid is, I have a child also, but a little bit older or smaller or whatever. You know, one another thing that you do, if you are writing down something that the person say, don't make the person feel like you don't respect them, you're not looking at them. Say, I'm sorry, I had to write down just what you just said, so I remember to take it into consideration when I write the report. So all of these respects that you do, and you tell and you communicate, all right, to the person in front of you is very important. And thank the person for coming and making the time to come and share information with you, and thank them for agreeing to show the rooms and so on and so forth. Those are things that we talked about. So I'll move faster in sake of time. Again, we talked about overcoming technological challenges. Always have a plan B for internet connection disruption. Have another modem, have another connect through your phone, connect through other lines. If in the worst case scenario, then switch into having a phone conversation and see how that goes. And if you need to take any other steps in the future to overcome any problems that you had even during the telephone conversation. In order to do that, obviously, you need to send clear instructions ahead of time to the person you're interviewing. What platform, the link, the rules, no phone, no consultants, no this, no that, and agree on the, like today, for example, I like the way Oman chapter runs its webinars. They ask me they send me in writing the protocol of how this webinar will work, and then they ask me to come in earlier, and they run me again through the protocol and tried and tested the screen and tested this and that. So in order for you as an investigator to be successful, and so you do not only ask the person you're interviewing to go through this process and the testing and all of this, you do the same. You as an investigator, you need to do the same. So you practice and you know exactly what the person can run into, and to be prepared yourself for those things. All right. In remote working, my dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow CFE colleagues, my fellow ACFE members, my fellow auditors, you need to help your organization to have, not only have a whistleblowing system or process, you need to have a trusted, I always add the word trusted, whistleblowing platform. And how do we make that trusted? It has to be independent. and it has to be simple. The whistleblower right to protection, you need to have a policy against retaliation. Accessible and easy for individuals. Right now, there are a lot of applications, QR codes, offer anonymity, because sometimes people don't want to disclose who they are until they feel comfortable. But if you say you must say who you are, then that person would say, all right, I will not disclose. All right. A system that can allow uploading multimedia files. You can export a conversation and send it to the interviewee or to file it in the case file. Again, QR codes to simplify the process. Being a chat-based, so the person can go back and forth and ask questions, and then the whistleblower can add more information. Conversation can go without limitation. The possibility of being deployed without IT infrastructure. You don't have to have a system, something built in your server. Again, as I said, there are applications that can be used. Free to use. They don't have to pay for to use it. No registration of profile. You don't have to record your profile. Possibility to connect to individuals or group chat, and instead of only individual chat is very important. No unique identifier in the conversation, so you can add a symbol or a code, but no Hossam El Shaffei is the whistleblower. Very important due diligence, because fraud can be, as we said, insider fraud or external fraud. So if you deal with any external third parties, you need to do proper due diligence. Right now, I'm helping an organization on a procurement fraud case, and I can tell you one of my first finding is no due diligence. Proper due diligence was done on the vendor that they procured from, and unfortunately they did a sole source. So when you do a sole source, you need to really do proper due diligence on that one vendor that you will contract with and you're going to spend millions of dollars with. All right, so due diligence. Make sure that employees know that HR, legal, investigators, and as I said earlier, are available during working remotely and available for report of any suspicious or uncomfortable activities, because it could be misbehavior on procurement or other means, but also, as we mentioned earlier, uncomfortable activities such as sexual harassment or sexual abuse of employees for a reason or another. Make sure your technology is up to date. This is very important. It is crucial that investigators and auditors make sure that their organization provide and upgrade their technology and so it can be used properly when they're conducting remote audits or remote investigation. As an investigator, it's still important. Preserve your investigation integrity, confidentiality and independent throughout the investigation, even though it's remotely. Best reporting structure is start with executive summary, including your key points, your key findings, and your preliminary case information, what was reported, the details of it, the summary of the allegation, clear summary of the allegations and the summary of the allegation and the background, and as I mentioned, the relevant company policies that were or have been violated. So, as I mentioned earlier, you don't make an opinion or you don't make a recommendation in the sense that the person is guilty or not guilty, because this is not our call. It's a judge call in case the case goes to court, and it's a management call in case management is the one to decide. But what I can do is I say, this is the policy, and this is where I found what I found. Then is the allegation substantiated or not substantiated based on the policy and the act. I also, in the report, I document what the complainant, the whistleblower said, what the witnesses said. As you know, everybody I interview before the subject is a witness until I come to the subject. All right, my question to you here, if I don't find anything against the subject of the investigation, should I interview the subject? Say in the chat, yes or no. Mr. Hassan, are you getting any answers?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. Due to time, I would answer this.
Yes, we are receiving the answers. Yes, for sure. Yes, of course.
Yes, what? Interview or not interview? Interview. Yes, for interview.
Yes, for interview.
Yes. In my own practice as an investigator, if I have no facts to tell me that this person committed a wrong act, I don't interview the subject. What would I interview the subject for? As a matter of fact, sometimes if a subject is interviewed in an investigation and people knew about it and so on, that person can go and sue me for screwing or not screwing, ruining their reputation. You know, so actually we need to keep the investigation very confidential to the extent that I don't alert the subject. And if the subject is not alerted and I don't have any facts against the subject, I have nothing to interview. What I'm going to tell him, what I'm going to confront the subject with, you're ruining your investigation process by calling the subject for an interview. And that's why it is recommended that I only investigate or talk to the subject last. Because it allows me time to collect facts and evidence before I talk to the person. So if I don't have facts and I don't have evidence, I have no reason to speak to the person. I have no evidence to confront the person with. Clear? Clear. I hope this is clear because this is very important. As I told you, your investigation process is very important in case your case goes to the court. Another thing we include in the report is the investigation scope and the purpose. What was the scope and what was the purpose of the investigation? What did I want to achieve? The method of the investigation. I have to list interview, document review, site visits, and when and where and what did I do and what did I collect. Evidence and timeline. What did I collect? From where? From whom? When? Where is it stored? And time and date. And to be locked in a secured file cabinet or wherever. And I should not touch the evidence more than necessary, as they say, in order that the documents go for forensic examination. The forensic investigator should not see my fingerprints all over the evidence instead of the subject's fingerprints. Case notes. Record in detail each action undertaken during the investigation, mentioning who performed it, when, and what the consequences. Investigation interviews highlight corroborative and contradictory information while maintaining objectivity. Say what the interviewees said. If it conflicts, like in my current investigation, the investigation was started based on whistleblowing. And when I went to discover, interviewed the whistleblowers, because there were more than one, I found out that there are personality conflicts in the thing as well. The information they collected was not strongly backed by strong evidence. 75% of it has, they had some elements, but 75% was on a personality conflicts. Still, there are things of concern, but you need to make sure that even if there is contradictory information, you need to mention that. Interview summary. You need to summarize each interview for each person separately. All right, people say, do I include photos and interview statements and so on and so forth in the investigation file, in the investigation report? Please tell me yes or no. Mr. Hassan? No answers yet?
Yes, I'm waiting.
Okay. Should I answer that question? Ladies and gentlemen?
First answer came yes.
Yes, I agree with you. It's yes. But the main body of the report should be short, concise, should not have so many. You include all of this as addendums to the report, and in the report itself, refer to them, see addendum or attachment 1 or attachment 2 or attachment 3. Because if the report is 300 pages, 500 pages, no one will read it. But if the report is 10, 15, 20 pages, it will be read. And if I want more information, I can go to the attachments or the addendums. Analysis of evidence. Assess the credibility of each interviewee story. I don't take the stories like this and run with it. I one time won a case against an investigator because what they wrote down in their investigation report, information that goes back to 1990 while the investigation was conducted in 2012. Irrelevant information. Make sure that you test the information you receive for credibility before you put anything in your report. Because when you work remotely as well, it makes it more difficult to assess the credibility. Key findings from investigation and interview. So you put the findings, the allegation, the finding, and under it you write substantiated, not substantiated, substantiated, not substantiated. All right. So make sure that section should be concise yet comprehensive, focus on critical insight without overloading the reader with unnecessary data. Straight to the point. Conclusion, allegation was substantiated or unsubstantiated. That's all what you can do. I don't say fire the person. I don't say promote the whistleblower. That's management to decide. Recommendation, as I said before, and as you all know, if you're expert in an area, yes, you can make a recommendation to strengthen control, to change what they say, accounting principle for valuation, for whatever the case may be, and you're expert in this, you're a CPA or CIA or whatever, or you have long years of experience in the area, you can make that recommendation. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of my simple presentation to you. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm happy to take any question. Should I stop sharing or?
Thank you so much, sir. Dear members and attendees, if you have any question, please write the question in the question tab. Actually, sir, your session was very interactive. So the questions was between the webinar itself.
Yes.
So there was one question: how investigation interviews can be rely on forensic investigation report since it is remotely?
Say again.
How investigation interviews can be rely on forensic investigation report since it is remotely?
You know, we have covered a lot of elements of how to interview and investigate remotely, and that's the whole thing about today's session. But I would like to ask the person who's asking the question, what is the definition of a forensic investigation? Because there is a mix of understanding the different types of investigation. So what is forensic investigation in your opinion or in your definition, Sarah, the person who's asking?
Sir, another question is audit collaboration with legal is must?
Say again?
Is audit collaboration with the legal is must?
In the case of fraud, yes. In the case of you identifying fraud red flags, I would strongly recommend collaboration with legal, whether internal or external legal counsels. Collaboration is very important because you don't want to be violating any laws. And as a result, your company would lose a case in the court. So when you find red flags or you start an investigation, I immediately inform my legal counsel that I am starting an investigation on the and get some feedback about the laws, rules, regulations before I even start. And I keep legal informed because at the end of the day, legal will be your representing your company in the court. All right, you will become a witness in the court. So you go and say your statement, and then you leave. But legal will continue to represent your company in front of the court. And there is a lot of mix between different names of investigation. But at the same time, what we said today is just a sample of what's out there. And you have to adjust the way you conduct your investigation. Forensic, you want to call it forensic, you want to call it administrative, you want to call it corporate investigation. Adapt what's useful for, write this down, for the industry, for the situation, for the complexity, for the nature of the investigation itself. All right, you may need to call the law enforcement from the beginning to investigate it for you. All right, so you need to adjust what we say, and what the standard says is not a Bible, it's not a Quran, it's not whatever. All right, it is guiding standards. Any standard is a guiding standards. Your local laws, the size of your organization plays a major role in the way you investigate. All right. Each one of this can take a separate session by itself. Reporting, the evidence, the interviews, the what to say, what not to say. All right. The official what they call it, facial impressions, or the movement of hands, and so on and so forth. Everything we said today can take 2-3 days to talk about more. So this is just a sample. It's not it's not binding. It's not an obligatory that you use. You take and leave based on the situation, industry, and the size of the investigation, the case, the where you are, the security, and so on and so forth. A lot of people, when allegation against someone comes, immediately they say, we either investigate you and fire you and you don't take anything, or resign and leave. You know, they just don't want a headache. So there are a lot of management can make a lot of decisions on how to handle investigations.
Yes, sir. So there's another question. If the investigation should cover a cash or stock count or check, can we appoint someone on our behalf to do so? For example, someone from the branch?
From the branch itself, where the fraud case happened? Is that the question? How would you how would you determine that the person you're appointing is not involved in the case? You have to take that into consideration. Therefore, yes, the short answer, yes, you can appoint anybody, but you have to make sure that the person you're appointing is the right person to do that for you. Otherwise, you can appoint someone else from another branch to do that for you. Obviously, that person has to sign confidentiality statement. This person have to you have to have in your policy how you select that person and what would be the consequences of that person violating confidentiality.
Thank you, sir. We will take one more question. Sometime to give the suspect more pressure to get the information, and the big challenge is if the suspect start give excuse, what we should do?
As I mentioned, pressure is not the right thing to do. Then ask me what's the right thing to do. The right thing to do is to be protecting yourself with facts and evidence. Do not interview suspects without having facts and evidence to confront. If you have the facts and you have the evidence, you don't have to pressure anybody, but you pressure because you're not prepared to meet the subject. Do not meet the subject. I will repeat, do not meet the subject if you're not well prepared. How I become well prepared? By having facts and having the evidence. And I have a checklist that all the process in the investigation that I am started, I have finished and I have successfully completed, and I am ready now to meet the subject. A lot of organizations, the first person to meet is the subject, which is the very wrong thing to do. So when I hear the word pressure, I get the feeling that the investigator is obviously, it will be very challenging. If I am your subject, I'll take you to the sea to drink and bring you back and fly you, and I can play with you because I know, mind you, the subject, if the subject really stole money or anything, they're the only people who have the full story, not you. Even when you have facts and evidence, still you don't have the full story. So I can play with you as much as I want. So protect yourself by being prepared with the facts and the evidence before you meet the subject. If you don't have them, you have no rights to meet the subject. You will have resistance. You will have to put pressure. And I can take you to court, actually, that you're accusing me of stealing, while you don't have any evidence against me, I can take you to court. And I can take a lot of money from your company. It's only that works for the advantage of the investigator, that honest people fear the system when they hear the word investigation. And they don't know what the rights are. Okay, and that's why, as I mentioned, I take cases for employees, because sometimes workplace take advantage against employees that don't know their rights properly. So they fear anything. When they come here under investigation, why, no, you know, and if they ask them to resign or be fired, they resign automatically. If you know your rights, you can actually make money.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, we are seeing your blank screen. Can you please switch on your webcam?
I think I tried to do that. Let me. You don't see me, huh?
No.
Okay. How about now? You don't see me? You still don't see me?
No.
Okay. Webcam. Share my. I'm trying to share. It's taking time. And hopefully it will work shortly. But anyway, until then, I can take more questions, if any.
Sir, is collaborative evidence still effective?
Give me more. In what way? What do you mean by collaborative evidence?
Mr. John.
Give me more beef so I can give you more fat. If I can, of course. All right. What happened to Mr. John?
No reply yet, sir.
Okay.
So, sir, due to time constraint, we will not take any further question.
All right.
It's time for our last session for a formal vote of thanks. I would like to thank, first of all, our His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq for providing ACFE Oman chapter as a chapter in Oman. I would like to thank CBFS College for sponsoring ACFE Oman chapter. I would like to thank Mr. Hossam El Shaffei for very insightful webinar session. And I would like to thank all our GCC, all Arab ACFE Oman chapter Middle East, ACFE Bahrain, ACFE Kuwait, ACFE Jordan, Egypt, Safa Saudi Anti-Fraud Association, Lebanon, ACFE Lebanon, Al Nahza Association, and ACFE Qatar. Last but not the least, ACFE Oman chapter president, all the presidents and the leaders of the chapter. Thank you very much for very insightful session. I would like to thank Mr. Hossam once again for very informative and very interactive session. I would like to thank all the attendees, our members, because members are the reason for our chapter's existence and our continuous webinars. Thank you so much, everyone. Before we wrap up the session, Mr. Haytham, President ACFE Oman chapter, would like to say something.
All right, thank you so much, Hassan. I just want to say thank you to our speaker for the very insightful session, and definitely this is just the beginning of more of new collaboration and more of a new initiatives in future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Mr. Hassan, would you like to say something?
Well, I didn't plan to, but you provoked me. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you, Oman chapter leaders, for inviting me. I have a lot of friends in Oman and in the Oman chapter in particular, and in the board in specifically. And again, our efforts in the leadership Oman chapter plays in our Middle East collaborative initiatives that just started, and it will, by Oman inviting us together to be here. I'm not only a speaker, but I'm also the president of the ACFE chapter in Egypt and in Jordan. So I speak about our chapter's collaboration, and Oman has given us a platform today to start our initiatives that we've been building up in the last a few let's say month, and now it's becoming more every day. It becomes more formal, and I say that to all our members in all chapters that just wait for more good things to come to strengthen our efforts in the fight against fraud in the region generally, and in each of our locations specifically, and together we can, and together we grow. So thank you so much again, and I'm honored to be with you, and I look forward to future events.
Thank you, Mr. Syed Ali, President in Bahrain.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan, Mr. Haytham, for inviting me. It was a very informative session, and I'm happy to have such a collaboration with the chapters, and I'm looking forward for the future event. So it will be, as Mr. Haytham said, it's a beginning, and inshallah, the future will be more. Thank you again.
Thank you so much once again, everyone, all the chapter leaders of the Middle East ACFE chapters. Thank you so much, and inshallah we'll see you in our upcoming webinar session. Stay tuned with all the ACFE Oman LinkedIn, Instagram. Thank you so much, and have a good night.
Thank you.